Welcome back to The Last Word. It is the first Friday in December. Hard to believe. Christy, hello.
Hi.
Robbie, hello in the background.
From the background, hello.
And we'll kick Robbie out as soon as KP joins, which will be momentarily. But here we are. We are off and running. Bye-bye, Robbie. Hello, KP.
I'm still setting up. Give me a second.
Yeah, right on. No worries. So a couple housekeeping things as we get started, everybody. First of all, welcome back. We took a little Thanksgiving holiday break, and this is our first Friday of December show. We've got two more in December. I'm going to drop links in the comments for everybody to RSVP for these next two events. And then I'm going to set up the January schedule probably over the weekend. We simulcast this on LinkedIn, on a couple Facebook channels. It'll be on Robbie's, on the Crispin Commentary YouTube channel, within the hour once we're done. Just giving you guys all the information on where you can find this show every Friday. Of course, if you're following us on LinkedIn, you'll see the show on my profile page under events. You can RSVP. We ask you to share it with all your friends, neighbors, colleagues, even strangers you meet would be interested in our show, I think. So here we are. We're off and running. Let's get into it, guys. There's a lot going on, and we've had a few weeks off, and so we're all looking and waiting in anticipation of what this Trump transition looks like and how it impacts our industry. And I'm going to start there, and let's riff on that for a bit. Christy, what are you seeing? What are you hearing?
I think there's a lot of disappointment in where interest rates are and what's happened post-election. I think it seemed like there was a lot of anticipation that once we knew what the administration was going to be, regardless of which side, that we were going to see a bigger decline in interest rates than we've seen, and we were going to see a bigger uptick in contracts, that people would just feel settled regardless of the outcome. And we're seeing that that's not necessarily the case. We've seen a bump in both of those things, but not to the extent I believe that people were hoping for.
I think that is, in all the conversations I'm having, that continues to be kind of sadly the lead in the storyline in just about every conversation. From a vendor serving the industry perspective, that sentiment from the lender, from the loan officer impacts, companies like FinLocker and our ability to kind of advance sales conversations, right? And it's a real issue. And if our lenders and loan officers are talking about this, then I presume that the consumers that you all are engaging with are having a similar kind of, check-in, if you will, with where is the market and where will rates really end up?
Yeah, it's interesting to look at the reforecasting that you've seen. I know they come out every month, but the reforecasting that we've seen from our friends that put the effort into doing that, and they're saying, hey, rates are going to be higher for longer. That's what consumers are seeing. Yeah. That's what they're experiencing. And we all know that it's going to take rates coming down in order for the market to more normalize. And we're just not there yet.
I think one of the things that I would share that, again, just coming from my conversation, so this is not, scientific survey feedback or anything like that, but it feels like from talking to loan officers that they're getting the sentiment from consumers that they're kind of leveling into this new, what is the real rate environment going to be? And so, I think I'm hearing that we're far enough removed from obviously the extreme low interest rates, but even the 4s and 5s where I think consumers are kind of starting to settle in for the reality. And as tough as it is and is rough as the market is, I do think there's some optimism after the first of the year, kind of as January kicks in, that we'll see a slight improvement on the market.
Well, look at the data that came out around payrolls and what happened. The headline number was increased growth, but when you dig into it, it really talks about the fact that multiple jobs is what increased, not higher level.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring this up is it relates back to what we're expecting from the Trump administration. And when Elon and Vivek get out there, how many jobs are they going to eliminate in the federal government and in what time frame? Because that could have a huge impact on where interest rates are. We know that job losses create an environment where rates improve. And so if they actually do things in the first quarter or early in the second quarter, that could actually impact where interest rates are. And it could impact the desire for people to sell their homes and take advantage of some of the equity. So we could see an increase in numbers of properties that go onto the market. And so I think that's probably the biggest impact we'll see from the Trump administration and its impact on housing, at least in Q1. What can they get done by executive order, and how does the bond market feel about that? It's really what we've got to look at.
As we thought about the content for this week's show, a couple things that I want to throw out there for you and KP to weigh in on as it relates to this transition, administration transition and the impact to our business. So a lot of talk already about deleting the CFPB. So I'm sure we'll touch on that. The seemingly never-ending topic of the GSEs coming out of conservatorship, right? Whether that's likely or not. What do we think we'll see in terms of relaxing of regulations that impact the industry? And then, as it relates to the inventory issue that really is the driver in really holding back our market in a big way. Is there any help on the way for home builders? So those are all things that I think we're all paying attention to in the industry in the transition. Would love you guys to kind of weigh in on any or all.
This is a little nugget for all of our leaders out there. I think you just employed the 3 T's. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. Is that what we're doing here? In the interest of time, we'll probably skip the last T and not recap at the end. But I love this time of year. Brian and I, we just had our Access Lending Academy, our nonprofit board meeting. I've had 3 board meetings, 3 days in a row. And I'll just say all the projections are coming out for 25, recaps of the year, forecasts for next year. We have our budget meetings at PRMG in 2 weeks. It's a great time of year to kind of square up. How did we do in this year, or what do we think for next year? I told, at my company, I've got retail, wholesale, and correspondent channel directors, plus our performance marketing director, Robin Clayton, and our digital lending director, Britt Stinson. Those are my 5 direct reports, aligning sales, marketing, and all of our ROI activities, revenue generating. Nobody is allowed to do less than 20% projection next year. I think we'll do
growth. KP, are you saying 20% growth?
20% growth. I think we'll hit 30 personally. And here's why. Time has been our friend. It hasn't been the best times in 22 and 23. This was a decent year. It also felt like it was better than it was because half the loan officers are out of the business. This slow grind down in rates, even with the recent uptick between the Fed cut in just 2 weeks ago, it keeps the accelerated refi shops coming in fast. And so the incumbents going into the leaner months of January and February are in a fantastic position when things open up as spring purchase season starts to really capture a lot of business. And so it's hard to build a business at this moment in time, especially from scratch. So the barrier to entry are high.
Totally agree. Hey, KP,
Yeah.
I want to poke real quick into that projection.
Sure.
Kind of comment if you're open to
it. Yeah. Poke me. I love being poked.
So you guys, like most of the lenders out there, you have your existing revenue producing team, your loan officers and your account executives that are on the team today, right? And then you have your leaders, you have your sales leaders who not only manage those direct line revenue producers, but also have a role in adding new people to the team, right?
Right.
As you think about those projections, that 20 to 30% that you referenced, are you all expecting that, like, at each line level revenue producer at the sales level, they'll grow that number, or is the number more incorporating organic growth of the company, adding new clients, new loan officers, new account executives, or some combination thereof?
So those numbers are aggregate for the company and across channel. The 80-20 rule always applies. Our top 20% performers, whether retail originators or wholesale and correspondent account executives, they'll get the bulk share of the growth. And so we continue to get, go 10x down on them. We haven't lost top producers. We lost one correspondent AE recently because he wanted to go to like a mandatory hedging correspondent style lender, and which is where he came from originally. His business did not miss a beat. Actually went up after he left. We had a non-QM guy running non-QM for us. Our non-QM business has gone up since he left. And so the enterprise, it stands still. And for those managing top producers, I was in the same bar in Fort Lauderdale when Jerry and Stephen Jones rolled in right after they fired Terrell Owens in South Florida. And what was interesting is a couple things, and this is some management stuff, and it has to do with all this. Terrell Owens is obviously a great player. So great that Jerry and Stephen personally flew out to fire him face to face. And that I have a lot of respect for. So I know there's a lot of Cowboys haters and Jerry Jones haters. And I know it ate him up inside because he came immediately to the Blue Martini over there in Fort Lauderdale and was absolutely annihilated, like stupering drunk Jerry Jones. And all of a sudden, all the TVs start flashing. Breaking news, breaking news. Terrell Owens released by the Cowboys. And so there's always life without top producers. It sucks and it hurts and no one likes it. But what Jerry said is, hey, there's this thing, Terrell, that's bigger than all of us, and it's the team. It's the Dallas Cowboys. And, even though they're not the best, in the playoffs, they're still a 5 championship storied franchise. And the machine, the team, it keeps going. And so, we sit down with all of our top producers. We sit down with all of our channel directors. We have meetings in this month. We want to know what's going on next year. How are you going to get there? And on the retail side, we haven't lost any top producers. In fact, the bleeding of retail into the wholesale channel has largely stopped nationally. So I think everyone is hunkered down right now in all of their respective places because they know next year is going to be big. It's big right now. Our November, we funded over $800 million. It was better than May and June as a company. May and June, the heart of purchase season. March is obviously a monster for everyone. It's a long month. It's the kickoff. Rates are coming down. Existing home sales is the bulk of sales that gets done. And I don't care what people say about the rate lock-in effect. When time continues to go on, anyone, even with the 3% mortgage, is gaining equity. And that chunk gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then they're finally going to move. Deployment, diapers, diamonds, debt, divorce. I joke debt again after divorce. Downsizing, death. That has not changed. There's a lot of pent-up demand. And so when you have more and more equity to trade to the next property, even if you're selling a 3% loan, because 75% of sellers buy something else, they are trading to have less mortgage because that equity goes to the next place. So they'll pay a 5% rate. They'll pay a 6% rate. In the summer, one of our largest MI partners said their book is at risk if rates get to 4.375. But as time goes on, that number goes up. And rates are coming close to that number. So maybe in the summer, that number is 4.875. And if you look at the 10-year treasury and 30-year fixed rate mortgage spread is at 220 right now. That historically is at 170. So you get 3/8 as the market gets calm and feels good about the economy and feels like, okay, here's where we're going to be. The Fed has found their neutral rate. They're done cutting whatever in 2025. Here's the cost of money. Here's what's going on with stocks and earnings. Here's the yield I know I can get on a 10-year treasury. Let's call it 4%. Let's call it 3.9%. Do I put money there? Do I put money in MBS? Do I put money in the stock market? And by the way, if we did get some real weakness in labor and we get a real fear of inflation, literally overnight, the Fed can start buying mortgage-backed securities and boom, game on. And so it is going to be a very, very strong year next year, much better than this year. And it's going to feel even stronger than the 2.1 trillion that the Mortgage Banker Association has earmarked and 1.47 trillion in purchase business, both numbers up. It's going to feel stronger for those of us left standing because half our competition is gone. So the capacity is gone. So it'll feel like a $3 trillion year for those of us left. And by the way, shout out, little plug here. Jason Stenger, Chief Operations Officer of Movement, he and I are co-chair for the IMB, the Independent Mortgage Banker Show, an MBA show in Austin, January 27th. Get your early bird registration in now. I think it ends like next week or pretty soon. That is going to be a monster show, a huge kickoff, end of January, spring purchase season kicking off, great content, no depositories or credit unions or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but this is a very unique show. So, but you can still come hang out, Christy.
I look, I invited you over to my house to hang out, so you're good.
It's on my calendar. I'll be there.
Hey, Christy, I want to ask you, since we diverted a little bit from the topic, I think this was actually a great diversion though, because it was super positive, KP, the way you kind of talked about what you all are doing at PRMG, your outlook for 2025. Christy, as you guys are thinking about 2025, I'm just curious where, like, do you share some of the same excitement, positive thinking towards 2025? And is it starting to relate in your projections?
Yeah, I think we're going to be up. Our teams are looking at significant increases in what we expect our volumes to be. And part of it is a shift in where we are from building foundation, which a lot of companies have done, just like we've been doing, working on our tech, working on the ways that we can do things. And you'll see like Carrie Poliska and others from our team out talking about what we've done. We've made those investments, and the smart companies have made investments in tech. They've partnered with folks like you, Brian. They've partnered with others, and they're really launching some key differentiators. We've done that work, and now we're working on the growth phase. And you think about how fintechs operate, we're in that growth phase. KP's talking about it. I think we still see a number of MLO reductions in the coming year. While we've lost half, I think we're going to see even more that don't renew their license this time around. And Kevin's right. It's going to feel different next year than it does this year because the industry has finally right-sized more like what it should be, which also leads to look at the profitability numbers that the MBA has shared. You're seeing more and more companies actually operate in the profitable level because not only have they made those cuts, but we've seen an increase in margin. You don't have as many folks out there that are just trying to hang on and get any deal no matter what they make. And you don't have as many folks doing the irrational pricing. We all know that you can have a loss leader, but you can't live in that environment forever, and everything can't, if you're a grocery store, you can sell bacon as a loss leader, but not bacon, eggs, and milk. So you have to pick and choose. And we had companies out there that were doing a loss leader on everything. And that's one of the reasons that you saw 8 quarters in a row of losses for almost every producer in the business. And you're starting to see some of that right sizing. And I think that's a key differentiator for why 2025 is going to feel different than 2024. KP's also right. He nails it. When there are a number of people who will make decisions not to move because they're 3% interest rate, but there are a number of folks who life has really happened and they have to, and they have finally come to the psychological realization that this is where rates are.
I'll also just say that your team, you, Michael Jones, incredible operator, Jody Hall, working with your team, you guys have great leadership. And so, not to talk about your company and my company, but I think we're both a barometer for all companies. There's strong leadership that's left. The weak did not survive. and we're all in a great position. And yeah, who knows if the CFPB gets deleted? There hasn't been a CFPB head chosen yet, right? But I think they were created in Dodd-Frank by an act of Congress. I think it takes an act of Congress to quote delete the CFPB. And to be fair, the CFPB just awarded $1.8 billion to borrowers, over 4 million borrowers who got ripped off by a quote credit restoration company. So the CFPB doesn't do all bad things. And even in our industry, let's be honest, I mean, the impact was light. Their headline case, the redlining case against Towson, it's a $100,000 settlement. That's nothing. So, so I'll just say that I think we're positioned very well to be a very business friendly, trending lower interest rate, slow growing housing industry and economy. And the Q4 early projection for GDP just came out. It's 3.3%. That's up from the final, well, not the final, but the first and second of 3 reads for Q3 was 2.8, 2.8. So to go from 2.8 to 3.3 is a sign of strength. And if we do drill for more oil and we bring gas and heating prices down, especially in the winter where, those bills can get, harsh. Brian, I saw the dust of snow in your hair in your video yesterday.
That's gray. That's just gray.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Oh, my bad. I got a good hair color guy that I need to go see. But anyway, that is good. That's a tailwind for the consumer. And wages are growing at 0.4%, up from 0.3 expectation on the jobs report today. Jobs were created. Manufacturing jobs are created. We're in a good spot right now. We just got to get through the winter. And oh, by the way, in just about 3 weeks, the days start getting longer again. More sun.
Love it. I want to shift gears, and we're going to go totally off the script. Not that we ever follow the script. Sorry, Robbie. So a couple things that have that I continue to hear, and I know you guys are involved in a lot of these conversations. So we won't spend a lot of time on this, but the trigger lead legislation that was looking like would be included in the National Defense Act is now there's questions whether or not that's going to happen as part of the National Defense Act, and if it doesn't, then
it's officially out of the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. It's a big bill. We tried to ride along with it. Some of the credit bureaus, I won't name them, we know the 3, especially one, really lobbied hard against it. So I had a conversation with one a couple weeks ago trying to sell me some other product. Okay, you're lobbying against our industry on trigger leads. That's like the most important thing to us, and you want me to buy something from you. So they got to get right with us and make that right. And they will, I think, over time, them and FICO. That's
what I want, KP, that's what I want to talk about specifically is them and FICO. And not to name, I'm not trying to call out any brands or companies, but frankly, there's only one credit score company, and there's only 3 credit data providers. So it's pretty easy for everyone to figure out who's who. There have been so many conversations I've had in the last 2 months with lenders around just this frustration with the continued rising costs of that part of the loan transaction, the credit part. And there's this frustration with the lack of execution by our industry advocates to push back to these entities. And I think it just leads to the need for even more deeper conversations around, what's really driving the increase in this part of the transaction, right? This required part of the transaction.
Well, it in lobbying in DC in a very small circle, it's about money and power, and the bureaus and FICO have power, and I'm not knocking them for running a business. I can wear both hats and see both sides. Of course, our business, our side, we don't like it. We don't like our prices going up. The borrower ends up paying those costs, and so they're raising prices on borrowers because we try and pass those through, just like a gas tax or a cigarette tax. God forbid, Zen and Zolt's, my little nicotine habit, gets taxed at some point. But it gets more expensive to play the game. Side note,
let's pause on that for 1 second. And as Brian said, let's poke, because does that cost really get passed on to the borrower? And the answer is, in a lot of cases, no, because look at what your pull through rate is from credit pull to actual application to lock to closing. And when you think about it, when I've looked at those numbers over the course of my career, from credit pull to application has actually decreased, and in a fairly significant way from when I got in the business to today, just in general in the industry, because borrowers have been taught by the CFPB, by lenders, by their realtors to go shop. And there is no cost to them to shop. So we're pulling, let's call it, I'm just going to use some generic industry numbers. We're pulling 4 credit reports to get to 1 closed deal.
It's better than us. We're 18%. We're pulling 4 and then funding 1 out of 5. And so we create our bundle and price in that regard.
That's not being passed on to the borrower, because you can only pass through the actual cost of their credit report. They're going, let's just say that every borrower is getting their credit report pulled 4 times throughout the process, and they're only paying for 1 of those. So at what point should it actually be passed on to the borrower?
Now,
it's allowed, but we don't do it as an industry.
We should. It's okay. We used to as an industry. We do it. We coach our people. You go, you know what? Get a borrower's credit card and pay for the credit report up front. So, you create your single soft pull up front. You go try soft pull. We were the first lender in America to do try soft running through DU and LP, both first on both. We're charging $240 for a try hard pull credit report with an invoice from our great partner in Zactus, who's helped us navigate through all this. And of course, I know we all have great partners. $240 at the end of the day on the closing costs. And I sat last year in Philadelphia in a closed room with the amazing and wonderful Dr. Sandra Thompson, FHFA director. And I said straight up in the room, we're charging borrowers for credit report. This is the unintended consequences of nobody standing up. And you know what? The Mortgage Bankers Association is our biggest lobbying advocate. They have the most money. They need to stand up and do something. They need to do more. And they're the only ones that can maybe make this go away. We are charging borrowers up front. If you have a positive P&L and the branch manager doesn't want to put a borrower through that, skin in the game credit card. By the way, if you get a credit card up front, they have skin in the game early, not just waiting for the appraisal. So those deals get a little more sticky. And so we are trying to charge and do charge up front. And so, that's what we've been going through. That's, as a result, we didn't want to have to change our protocol and cascade to make up for rising costs, but costs are up, insurance is up, taxes up, home prices are up, rates were up. So, we're fighting through this. And if you're a purchase money lender, like we're 85% purchase or more on any given month across all 3 channels. We're having to grind through every deal. Thank God for non-QM. Thank God we have fallout to take these people places. But, it is what we've had to change and adapt to these rising credit card costs that we didn't ask for and were thrust upon us in a monopolistic environment.
We got 2 minutes left. I think that was a mic drop. Brian, you want to take us home?
Well, here's what I would ask. This is my ask to the audience, and I know there's 30 or so live with us. Usually we end up with around 300, 350 people that see this show over the course of this weekend. My ask to all of us in the industry is to let's really get this conversation out there. I've had so many of these one-offs that I just feel like we need these shows, these opportunities need to just continue to bring it to light. But we do need the rest of our folks in the industry to join us in this conversation, because if we don't do anything, it's going to just get worse. It's not going to get better.
It will pass. The trigger lead bill will pass. It's going to have to pass next year, and it's going to hopefully be part of some other rider or bill that goes through. That's going to be the first signature piece of legislation that's coming out, and that bill is fair. And I'm in DC twice by the end of Q2, advocating with legislative groups. Whether it's MBA or or Broker Action Coalition or whoever it is, they are pushing to get that stuff passed. It's not dead, but it's going to go through. We just need to get to go through, not on the NDAA, and as soon as possible next year, while there's still an absolute mandate from the public at large for this current administration.
All right,
That's,
guys.
that's the last word.
That is the last word. Thanks as always. It's great to get back in this this Friday rhythm. If you're just tuning in, scroll to the top of the comments. I've got a link in there for next Friday's show, as well as the 20th of December. Those will be our last two shows in 2024. And look for invites here on LinkedIn for our January Friday schedule. Christy, KP, as always, enjoy spending time with you on a Friday.
Good to see you both.
Thank you. RIP Art Catchman, legend. Get in the stock market, get vested. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not responsible for your losses, only your profits. Cheers.
See y'all.
Bye.